Back in the summer, I celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System by making video reviews of some of my favorite games for the console. I posted the 30 reviews I made on Facebook, and I originally planned to only upload them to Facebook. However, I decided that I wanted to end the year of the Super Nintendo's 30th anniversary by uploading the reviews to YouTube along with a new review. My plan is to upload one review a day this month and end with the new review. The review you are about to see covers the 5 North American launch games of the Super Nintendo. However, the remaining reviews each review a single game. For my first review, I review the 5 launch games in order from least favorite of the 5 to favorite of the 5. The order I review the games in is SimCity, Pilotwings, Gradius III, F-Zero, and Super Mario World. With that said, I present you with my first review. SimCity is a city-building simulation game and is a port of Maxis's 1989 SimCity computer game. This port was developed and published by Nintendo with permission from Maxis. The premise of the game is that the player plays a newly elected mayor tasked with building a city from scratch. The player is assisted in-game by a man named Dr. Wright, who is named after Will Wright, the creator of SimCity. I will now talk about the gameplay. There is a great and varied selection of structures that are available to build, ranging from the 3 basic zones, residential, commercial, and industrial, power plants, police and fire stations, and that's just a small fraction of what the player starts off with. On a related note, the gifts that the player gets after fulfilling certain conditions are a great feature. The gifts themselves are great, and they add a sense of progress and a sense of accomplishment to the game. The game offers a large degree of freedom for what buildings can be built on the map and where. Whether the player wants to build a settlement that looks cool or a practical settlement, there are many possible settlements that can be built. This and the large selection of maps give the game great replay value and are great for people who like to be either creative or experimental. The graphics hold up pretty well, and the attention to detail on the more advanced structures is great. When the player's population gets high enough, a cutscene occurs announcing that the settlement has been upgraded to the next level. I find these cutscenes satisfying because of the music giving a sense of accomplishment, and because of Dr. Wright dancing in the later cutscenes. There are 6 settlement levels: village, town, city, capital, metropolis, and megalopolis that depend on the population, and each level has its own song. I love all of the songs, especially Metropolis and Megalopolis. I love how the village song is easygoing to go well with a settlement that is just starting out, and how the music becomes more energetic as the settlement level increases. The increase in energy goes well with an evolving or developing settlement. Now for each game I review, I talk about the game's ending or endings if it has any. While SimCity has no ending per se, I think the cutscene that occurs after the population exceeds 600,000 is worth mentioning. The music is satisfying, the message is satisfying, and the 4 Dr. Wrights dancing and throwing confetti is cute. Overall, SimCity is a fun city building game with great replay value and a great degree of freedom. My only real problem with the game is that it can be slow at times due to a number of factors, such as the variable development of zones, money management, and addressing people's complaints, like pollution and crime. However, the good things about the game make the time put into the game well worth putting in. That concludes my review of SimCity. Now on to Pilotwings. Pilotwings is an aerial simulation game by Nintendo created to show off the Super Nintendo's Mode 7 capabilities. Fortunately, the game is way more than a mere tech demo. The premise of Pilotwings is that the player is a flight cadet trying to earn licenses in the Flight Club by completing lessons, each with objectives in one of 4 aerial skills: light plane flying, skydiving, flying via rocket belt, and hang gliding. Each lesson is run by an individual instructor, each with their own flight area. The 4 Flight Club instructors are Tony, Shirley, Lance, and Big Al. Now for the gameplay. The play control is smooth and responsive, the only problem being that the controls take some getting used to. The idea of being airborne adds tension to the game, and as a result adds excitement and fun to the game. In addition, the 4 skill types are fun to play in their own ways. The light plane has the most freedom of movement and adjustable speed. Skydiving has the added tension of falling through the air, and the parachute is fun to use. The rocket belt has the best maneuverability and is, in my opinion, the coolest looking thing the player can use. And the hang gliding has air currents, which are so much fun to ride up, and the glider looks cool. Successful landing in any skill area is very satisfying. Each skill mode has its own song, and I love all four of these songs. In addition, the songs go well with the aerial theme of the game and fit their respective skill modes very well. I will now talk about the lessons that I mentioned earlier. How the lessons work is that each lesson has 2 or more objectives, each in a different skill. The player earns points for each attempt at an objective, and the player has to score a high enough point total to pass the lesson and earn the license the lesson is for. The lessons have fair completion conditions, and a great convenience is that the player does not have to complete all of the objectives to pass the lesson. I love the bonus stages, which are accessible in some of the objectives. I find the bonus stages cute, a great way to earn points, and a great source of replay value. I especially like the bonus stages where the player controls a penguin that dives off a high diving board and into a pool. If the player completes a lesson, they are shown a screen with the lesson's license, the number on which is the password for the next lesson. I find this to be a very clever way of giving the player a password. The player character sprites in the objectives are colorful and well drawn, and the instructor portraits are fun to look at. I especially like their reactions to the player getting a perfect score on an objective. The pseudo 3D effect of the game still looks good, and the beautiful and detailed maps move smoothly and at believable speed. I will now give away a major development in the game, after which I will talk about the game's final scenario and ending. The first half of the game ends with a stage beginning with the instructors captured, then imprisoned in a stronghold. The player must fly a helicopter to the stronghold to rescue the instructors. I love the idea of flying a helicopter, and flying the helicopter is fun thanks to the deep and smooth controls. I also love the song in the stage. It goes well with the aerial combat and gives the sense of a dangerous rescue operation. Completing the stage is very satisfying due to the challenge and to the music played at the end of the stage. The second half of the game ends with another and more difficult helicopter stage. I find this helicopter stage more fun than the first one due to the challenge and the nighttime setting. The songs played at the end of the second helicopter stage are the same as in the first one, and they are more satisfying to hear the second time due to the higher challenge. I love the response following the stage by Big Al, the strictest and most senior instructor. Big Al showing his softer side by tearfully praising the player and awarding the club's highest honor, the Golden Pilotwings, makes the ending even more satisfying. I just love the credit sequence due to the music, due to Tony, Shirley, and Lance saluting the player character as he walks towards Big Al, and due to the player character saluting Big Al at the end of the walk. Overall, Pilotwings is a fun, charming, and challenging game, and uses the Super Nintendo's Mode 7 capabilities very well. That concludes my review of Pilotwings. Now on to Gradius III. Gradius III for Super Nintendo is a port of Konami's 1989 arcade shoot-'em-up of the same name. Speaking of Konami, I think that they were one of the Super Nintendo's 3 best third-party contributors. Now, to those who don't know what a shoot-'em-up is, it is a shooting game wherein the player moves around the screen and usually shoots forward. The premise of Gradius III is that the player controls a fighter starship called the Vic Viper in order to liberate planets from the evil Bacterian Empire and put a stop to the Empire itself. Now I will talk about the gameplay. One of my favorite things is the power-up selection. At the start of the game or after a continue is used, the player can either use Type Select to choose full sets of 5 weapons and one of 2 shields, or use Edit Mode to choose one of 4 shields and a weapon of each of the 5 weapon types. The 2 selection modes and the large variety of weapons give the game depth and replay value. Basically, the way the power-up system works is that there is a gauge at the bottom of the screen with 7 spaces, 1 for speed up, 1 for the shield, and 5 for the weapons. Some enemies drop power pods upon defeat, and the pods are colored blue or red. The blue pods destroy all on-screen enemies, which is a great convenience. As for the red pods, they cause the power-up gauge to move. The player can either press a button to activate the highlighted power-up or wait to grab more red pods to activate a different power-up. The freedom of powering up that this system allows adds fun, strategy, and depth to the game. There are only two problems I have with the gameplay. First is that if you die at the wrong time, it can be incredibly frustrating to continue because you lose your power-ups. Second is that the game can slow down if there are too many sprites on screen. This is a minor problem for me though. Now for the stages. Each stage has two segments, an outer space segment wherein there are groups of enemies easy to defeat and no environmental obstacles, and the main segment which usually occurs on a planet. The outer space segments are one of my favorite things about the game. One of the reasons being that they help with the game's pacing by giving the player a brief breather. In addition, they help the player get power-ups in preparation for the main segment of the stage. And the first outer space segment is good for helping players understand the basic controls and gameplay before the environment becomes more constrained on the first planet. The main segments are varied, detailed, beautiful, and well designed. The stage songs are great too. Each stage song fits its setting well and goes well with the overall atmosphere of the game, the atmosphere of a dangerous space adventure. I love the boss battles in this game because the bosses are gigantic, well designed, and intimidating. They are also challenging without being frustrating. The songs that play during the battles are great too and add to the tension of the battles. My favorite boss songs are the songs that play during a parade of bosses fought in the second half of the game. I will now talk about the game's final stage and ending. The final stage looks great and is fun because of its design and its music, the latter of which gives the sense of the impending end of the mission and fits the game's atmosphere. The final battle is charming because after so much trouble, the player gets to a large and intimidating final boss who is actually a cakewalk to defeat. And now for the game's ending. Watching the battered Vic Viper escape the Bacterian Empire's exploding planet is very satisfying, as is the photo finish which happens in the complete ending. I also love the end credits because of the music, which gives a sense of accomplishment and goes well with the end of a dangerous space mission. Overall, Gradius III is one of my favorite shoot-'em-ups for Super Nintendo, with its great music, cool graphics, great weapon selection, and great replay value. That concludes my review of Gradius III. Now on to F-Zero. F-Zero is a futuristic racing game by Nintendo, which, like Pilotwings, was created to show off the Mode 7 capabilities of the Super Nintendo. Also, like Pilotwings, F-Zero is much more than a mere tech demo. As for the premise of the game, the basic premise is that the game takes place in the year 2560 and there is a hover car racing tournament called F-Zero. The 4 playable races in the tournament are the series protagonist Captain Falcon with his Blue Falcon, Dr. Stewart with his Golden Fox, Pico with his Wild Goose, and Samurai Goro with his Fire Stingray. I will now talk about the gameplay. The play control is smooth, deep, and easy to learn. The steering and brakes are well executed, the Super Jet credits are a great feature, and side shifting is a great convenience. Super Jet credits are speed boost credits earned after completing a lap. They can be used at any time, adding depth and strategy to the game. Side shifting is great because it allows the player to smoothly shift around obstacles instead of dangerously steering around the obstacles. In addition, it helps a lot with navigating turns and allows the player to smoothly move into health recovery zones, which brings me to my next point. The health bar adds to the challenge, adds a sense of danger, and is good encouragement for not driving haphazardly. The health recovery zones are great because they are well sized and give a sense of hope to the races. My only problem is the delay before the health recovery, which can be annoying. The vehicles are strongly varied, adding replay value to the game. The racing is fast-paced, is exciting, and is challenging without being frustrating. A 2-player mode would have been nice, but that's just a nitpick. The tracks are strongly varied, colorful, beautiful, fun, and challenging. The stages also have great music. My favorite songs are Mute City, Big Blue, Silence, White Land, and especially Firefield. Mode 7 is used very effectively in the game. The pseudo 3D effect is convincing and the maps move smoothly and realistically as the player moves. The Grand Prix end with a results sequence that is very satisfying thanks to the great music that plays. The music fits the atmosphere of the game well and goes well with the end of a long and difficult journey. I will now talk about ending details of the game. I personally find the expert class ending to be underwhelming because I think the title screen song is the wrong song to use for an ending, and there are no visuals aside from the credits. I do think that the master class ending is pretty cool though. The top-down view is nice, and the message is satisfying. Overall, F-Zero is still a lot of fun even compared to more recent racing games, and has enough challenge, fun, and charm to stand among racing games. That concludes my review of F-Zero. Now for my favorite Super Nintendo launch game, Super Mario World. Super Mario World is one of Mario's most iconic platformers, my favorite Mario game for Super Nintendo, and one of my favorite Mario games in general. The premise of Super Mario World is that Mario, Luigi, and the princess are on vacation in a place called Dinosaur Land when the princess is captured yet again by Bowser. Mario and Luigi later meet a dinosaur named Yoshi, who explains to the brothers that his friends were captured and trapped in eggs by the Koopalings, 7 childlike Koopas who serve as Bowser's elite minions. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi thus agree to work together to rescue Yoshi's friends and the princess. I will now talk about the gameplay. The play control is smooth and intuitive. Mario's walking, running, and normal jumping are smooth and well paced. The spin jump is a welcome addition. I find its ability to instantly defeat certain enemies, its ability to allow Mario to bounce off certain enemies, and its ability to allow Mario in any large form to break blocks below him to be great conveniences. I love the power-ups in the game. My favorite in the game, and one of my favorites in any Mario game, is the Cape Feather, because it can slow Mario's descent, a great convenience, allows him to fly, and gives him an extremely useful close-range attack, the Cape Spin. I love the flight because of the segment of flight in which Mario wears the cape like a parachute. Mario's use of the cape here looks cool, it's fun and convenient to float through the air, and if Mario is hit by an enemy while his cape is open, his flight is disrupted, but he himself takes no damage, becomes temporarily invincible by blinking, and is able to float down. This damage response prevents a lot of potential frustration, and flying would have been a lot less fun without it. Yoshi is my second favorite thing about the game. I love Yoshi himself, and he is an extremely useful ally in the game. A great convenience is that if Mario is hit while riding Yoshi, Mario doesn't take any damage and Yoshi doesn't simply disappear. Mario taking damage would just be frustrating, and the player gets a chance to jump back on Yoshi, reducing the potential frustration of losing Yoshi. Yoshi's eating is a great convenience due to the fact that he can eat a lot of enemies, the length of his tongue, the abilities he gets from Koopa shells, and the bonuses from eating berries. On the subject of Yoshi's Koopa shells abilities, I especially like the flying ability, which the common green Yoshi gets from blue shells, and which the blue Yoshi gets from any color of shell. I also like the fireballs associated with red shells and red Yoshi, and the sand clouds associated with yellow shells and yellow Yoshi. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi's sprites are colorful, well-drawn, and well-animated, adding to the fun of the gameplay. On a related note, the enemy sprites are charming and well-drawn, and fit the game's atmosphere and charm. Now for the stages and environments. The worlds and environments are varied and beautiful, and the stages throughout the game are varied, cleverly designed, and fun to play. Another one of my favorite things about the game is that some of the stages have multiple exits. The extra exits and hidden stages accessed via these exits add depth and replay value to the game. A lot of the extra exits are keyholes which Mario can enter if he carries the key into the hole, and I love how the keyhole enlarges then swallows Mario after he does so. I love the songs that play at the end of stages, and I think that the iris out that occurs at the end of most stages is a nice touch. Among my favorite stages include the Koopaling castles, because of the Koopaling battles at the end of each castle, and because of the castle song, which creates an intense atmosphere and adds excitement. I love the Koopaling battles because of the variety, the structure of the battles, and the music, which, like the castle music, adds intensity and excitement. I also love the cutscenes that occur after the player defeats the Koopaling, which show Mario putting the imprisoned Yoshi friend aside, then destroying the Koopaling's castle. My personal favorite is the scene at the end of Larry's castle. Mario picking up Larry's castle and kicking it away is so satisfying. Now I would like to talk about the music. I love the whole game's soundtrack, not just the castle songs. Other songs that I especially like include the standard stage theme, the athletic theme, the ghost house theme, and the bonus stage theme. I will now talk about the game's final stage and ending. The final stage, Bowser's Castle, is my favorite stage in the game. The multiple pathways through the castle add replay value to the castle. The dark hallway leading up to Bowser's door adds tension to the lead up to Bowser's door. And the final battle is my favorite battle in the game, and one of my favorite battles in any Mario game. In the battle, Bowser rides a flying vehicle called the Clown Car. Bowser's Clown Car is one of my favorite things in the Mario franchise, and I love the name because both words go well with the machine's ability to carry Bowser himself, multiple Mecha Koopas, multiple giant bowling balls, and the princess. Clown Car indeed. I love the thunder, the lightning, and the music in the battle, all of which add intensity and excitement to the battle. I also love the smooth use of Mode 7, especially when Bowser flies away from the screen then towards the screen. I love when the clown car wears an angry face in the final stage of the battle to show that Bowser means business. And now for the ending. The music that plays as the epilogue is shown is beautiful and satisfying. The fireworks are a great touch too. I love the credit sequence because the song is excellent and goes well with the successful end of a long journey and with Mario, Yoshi, the princess, and Yoshi's friends walking to Yoshi's house. Speaking of Yoshi's house, the scene after the credits in which Yoshi's friends hatch from their eggs at Yoshi's house is really cute and heartwarming. The cast of enemies after this scene is a great touch, and the final screen is great thanks to the beautiful picture of Mario and Luigi standing confidently with the princess. Super Mario World to this day continues to represent what makes Mario games great. Smooth and intuitive gameplay, clever level design, great power-ups, colorful environments, likable characters, and a certain charm you won't find in other game series. Super Mario World continues to be a masterpiece among Mario games and among video games in general. That concludes my review of Super Mario World. Thank you very much for listening to my review of the 5 North American launch titles of the Super Nintendo. Take care.